It's almost Passover, so that means that we gotta talk about the Passover movie. That's right, I'm talking about The Prince of Egypt. Deliver us! Hi there, my name is Shayna, and this is my channel. I talk about culture, Jewish themes and pop culture, and basically anything else I want to talk about. And if you don't like it, start your own channel. Okay, but please subscribe to my channel. Thank you, bye. What does beautiful artistry, great voice acting, and a surprisingly human story all have in common? Well, that all can be used to describe DreamWorks' 1998 animated feature and masterpiece, The Prince of Egypt. Now, I didn't grow up watching this movie, okay? So I don't got that childhood nostalgia that we get for some of those movies we watch as kids. In fact, I'm not even like a year old yet, but never mind that. Anyway, I recently watched The Prince of Egypt for the first time ever, and I was very pleasantly surprised. To be honest, I'm not that big into like biblically inspired stories, but this story was just so surprisingly human and relatable that I was really blown away by it. Yes, it tells the story of Exodus, which it took some artistic liberties, so I'm told, but at its core, The Prince of Egypt is really about discovering one's identity and answering a call that seems impossible to answer to, and family dynamics. No matter what your religion and ethnicity and background, no matter what, I think there's something about this movie that can touch upon anyone at all and be relatable. So without further ado, we're going to talk about this movie and what I like about it. Now, if you haven't seen it or you don't know the story of Exodus, I guess spoiler alerts ahead, okay? You've been warned. The movie's been out since 1998, though. Okay, I'm not sure if this needs to be said, but just in case you don't know, like, the story of Exodus or Passover, basically, Moses' mother puts him as a baby in a basket, and then he ends up being raised by the Pharaoh of Egypt, and so he doesn't know that he's a Hebrew, and then later he finds out he is a Hebrew, and then he's, like, called from Hashem to, like, save the people, the Hebrews, deliver them from Egypt. Okay, that story. So there, that's the story. Now let's go on. So first off, let's start with the artistry. That's one thing I really like about this film. It's not a Disney film, okay? It's DreamWorks, but I would say that it's part of that golden era of animation where most of it is hand-drawn, and it's got kind of like that Disney quality, but it's based a little bit more on reality, actually. I mean, when you think about it, the people have like different skin tones, so there's diversity there. I'm not a historian, but I feel like that's probably accurate, that there were different skin tones at that time. Controversial take. Something that someone pointed out online one time, and I don't remember who, and I can't find it, so please don't get mad at me that I can't credit them for this idea that they pointed out, but someone pointed out that the characters in this film are very, very expressive because the animators would animate the bottom parts of their eyes more than they would do like the eyebrows, so it was a little less cartoonish looking and a little more like how people really emote, I guess. I don't know, but I think it works because they do have kind of like, they're very expressive. Then, of course, there's also the backgrounds, okay? Every background looks like a painting. You've got like the scenery where you see like the pharaoh sculptures up high, and don't even get me started on like the part where they're crossing the Red Sea and the water is up. It's like a wall of water, and you can see like the fish and a whale swimming by. That part is just absolutely beautiful. I just really think the artistry of this is very, very good. Okay, now we gotta address the elephant in the room, okay? They made Moses hot, right? Like, that's not just me. They drew Moses and they made him hot. Okay, let me explain. So when the movie started, I didn't think much of it. I was just watching Moses and Ramses doing the little brotherly love thing, getting in trouble. And then at one point in the beginning, Moses takes his hat off. Yeah, did you think that was a hat? Because I thought it was his hair until he took it off. And then I went, "Oh, that's not his hair. That was a hat, and that's his hair. Are we gonna see more of that?" I don't know. It's like when they did that moment, it like awakened something in me. And then later on, when he goes to Midian and he like finds himself and marries Zipporah, he like grows out his hair a little bit and it's a little bit longer. And then at that point, he's just a certified hunk, all right? They made him a certified hunk. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Don't come at me, all right? I didn't draw him that way. Someone drew him that way, though, all right? And, I don't know, I just like it. He looks good, okay? Is it a crime to make Moses look good? I don't think so. You were thinking it too. It can't just be me, right? No, it can't. Okay, so besides the artistry and making Moses hot, another thing that's really great about this movie is the music. There's like so many good songs, and even the songs that aren't like the absolute bangers, they're not as good, they're a little weaker, they're still like good and they have their place in the movie. So like overall good. But I really want to point out 3 songs that like are the top songs when I think of this movie and what I really enjoy. First of all, the opening song, Deliver Us, where we're seeing the slaves working, they're describing the grueling work they gotta do, and then they're singing Deliver Us to Hashem because I guess they're hoping that, well, I don't really know like the wording. I don't know what Deliver Us actually means. I assume it just means that they're gonna be led away from Egypt and led away from slavery, but you can tell that's kind of what they mean in the song. Either way, it's just like, it's a beautiful song, and it's just like, it's a great opening. It's a very strong opening, and it's like setting the tone for what's happening and what's to come. Right, then there's this song when Moses is in Midian. Is it Midian or Median? Hold on a second, hold on. Is the ancient city called Midian or Median? Hold on. It says Midian. Midian. Okay, well, anyway, so there's a part where Moses goes to Midian and he meets Jethro and Zipporah, and he's finding himself there, and he marries Zipporah. And during that whole little like montage, Jethro sings this song called like In Heaven's Eyes or something like that. Basically, the whole song is about like how we're all a small part of like a bigger picture, and we can't always tell how important we are because we don't think we're really important. We're just a small part, and we're just like the other small parts. But all the small parts make up the big picture, so we're all important. At least I kind of think that's like what they're saying. Let me just like read the opening of the song because I think you'll get the message. All right, I got the script here. Hold on. It says, "A single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shine, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design. And the stone that sits on the very top of the mountain's mighty face, does it think it's more important than the stones that form the base?" And so, yeah, he basically is saying, like, hey, you're like the thread in the tapestry, and so you're important, and you're like the stone at the base or the top. It's all important. At least that's what I think. And you can't really see your purpose unless you see it through heaven's eyes, and that's why it's called Heaven's Eyes. Anyway, I just think it's a deep song, and it's fun, and I like it, and Jethro is cool. And also, even though I don't know the biblical stuff that well, I feel like making Jethro wise like that is like accurate, because I'm pretty sure Jethro like counseled Moses and gave him guidance and advice, some really good advice. Yeah, so I like that part a lot. And then there's finally the creme de la creme, the most beautiful song of all in this movie, in my opinion. When you believe, this song happens basically once the plagues have happened and the Passover part has happened, and now the Hebrews get to leave Egypt. And so Miriam and Zipporah start singing this song about how basically the prayers have finally been answered. I always tear up at this part. I've watched this movie a few times now because I love it. And this part always makes me tear up because it's such a beautiful, delicate melody, and it starts off slow and it builds up, and then there's kind of like a larger chorus, and it just really is like a hopeful song. And I feel like even though there's a lot of darkness in the story of Passover, I think ultimately it's supposed to be kind of like a hopeful story. It's about escaping Egypt every year. Even if you're not in Egypt, it's about escaping the bad and finding freedom. And I think there's something really beautiful about this idea of like believing in miracles and seeing them come to fruition. I don't know. I just think it's really beautiful. And you know what I will say as like an honorable mention? That song Playing with the Big Boys. I don't really like how that song starts, but then like the actual chorus part is very catchy and it's kind of like a fun villain song, so that one gets an honorable mention for sure. Besides the artistry and the music, another thing I really like about this movie is the character development and personal journey of Moses, his like identity journey, okay? Because think about it this way. He was raised thinking that he's just like the Pharaoh's second son. He's raised with privilege and power. He doesn't really care about the Hebrew slaves. And then he's confronted by the possibility that he might be a Hebrew, and this all might be a lie. And while he kind of denies it a tiny bit, he very quickly decides to check the hieroglyphics and read the history, and he realizes that it's true, and then he's mortified by how the Hebrews were treated and are being treated. And instead of like the next day projecting his anger and confusion onto the slaves and messing with them, he suddenly has empathy for them and he feels bad for how they're being treated. Now, would it have been nice if maybe he saw them as people from the beginning? Yes. Did the previous night, was he acting like a total jerk and lording his power over them? Also, yes. But you gotta remember, okay, he was raised in this position of power, and it was normalized. There was no reason to feel bad about slaves because it was like normalized that there were slaves and that they were treated bad, and he didn't really like concern himself with that. So give him a little bit of a break, okay? He's confronted with this. Suddenly he sees the Hebrews as people. He can't stand that they're being mistreated, and he goes so far as to accidentally a god. Sorry, I don't know if I can say the M or K word, but he got blepped. Anyway, so he bleps a god, and then he decides to run away. And you could say the running away was cowardly, but I think it actually was very necessary. He had to get away from that environment so he could discover himself. And then when he goes to Midian and he meets Zipporah, you know, he met Zipporah early on and he treated her badly, although he did help her escape, but still, he kind of treated her badly, and she had every right to not trust him. And then he earns her trust and respect, and they get married, and he discovers these new values, and he embraces his identity. And then in the desert, he sees that burning bush, and Hashem asks him to do this impossible task. And at first, he's like, I don't know, I can't do that, I'm not the guy. And can we blame him? I mean, if you were asked to do like an impossible task by a mystical, scary, purple burning bush, I mean, I think we'd all hesitate. But he does answer the call. And then he even like wins over his biological brother Aaron, who doesn't trust him at first. You know, he really gives him the side eye, and we can't blame him. But he does redeem himself, and I think he really just like has a great character arc, and it's just so beautiful, and that's what I really love about this movie and this story. And then on top of that, there's like the family dynamic with him and his stepbrother Ramses, and they grew up being buds that would get in trouble, and then when he comes back, it's all about how Ramses doesn't really accept him with this new identity that he has, and they can't get past it. Oh dear, it's actually quite sad, that part. And then don't even get me started on the part where the Passover happens and Ramses loses his son, and then Moses isn't even happy about it. He feels bad. He weeps, and then he leads his people. It's just, what a beautiful story, seriously. And then finally, can we talk about this all-star cast of actors that do the voices? You've got Val Kilmer, Ralph Fiennes, Patrick Stewart, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Goldblum, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Danny Glover is like the main cast. And then on top of that, you've got Steve Martin and Martin Short playing like the goofy, comic relief, bad guy side characters. I mean, I just feel like they are so lucky to be a part of like such a special project that was so beautiful and seems timeless. I can only hope that one day I'm part of a project like that. So I'm very jealous, and I hope those actors realize that they are part of something beautiful. So that's what I wanted to share about why I love that movie. It's incredible. I watch it every year, even though I'm only not even a whole year old yet. But I mean, I'm gonna watch it every year. I'm gonna watch it this year for Passover. So tell me what you think. Did you like this movie? Are there parts that I didn't even mention that you like about it? Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought about the movie. Please leave a comment. It helps support the channel. And while you're at it, like the video and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell. But if you leave comments, only leave nice comments, please. Nice comments, please. Okay? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Bye.